Resident Evil 7 Biohazard helped to push the Resident Evil franchise back into the horror genre, and its ending is a little bit bonkers. You may have just beaten the game and are wondering, what the fuck just happened? I know that I definitely had some questions the first time that I beat it, and I'm sure that you might have some as well. Well, I'm here to help. Hey there, I'm 𝗦𝗢𝗎𝗓, and today we're going to take a look at the story of Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, explain Evelyn and the mold that she controls, and of course, explain the ending of the game. Alright, so we start the game off as Ethan Winters, and he's searching for his wife Mia, who's been missing and presumed dead for the last 3 years. Ethan got a random email out of nowhere from her, asking for him to come and get her in Louisiana. Does he think twice about this? No. Does he think to maybe bring someone along with him? No. Does he bring anything useful with him just in case everything goes to shit because he's going into an unknown situation and has no idea what kind of shit he's about to get himself into? Of course not. So he goes to Louisiana and finds the house. It looks creepy as hell. He proceeds anyway, and things get super creepy really quick because of course, it's dark, no one's home, and the door suddenly shuts behind him. Is this not a major red flag? Would you not just leave at this point? Come on, Ethan. Oh. I guess he tried, and he can't. Awkward. So then he goes exploring through the house, finding some creepy VHS tapes along the way, along with some secret entrances and his wife in a cage thingamajigger. He frees her, they go to escape, but she's not looking like she's doing so well. She then stabs him, chops off his hand, and then tries to chop him in half with a chainsaw. Yep, nothing off about this at all. So Ethan battles against his wife twice, defeats her twice, but then gets knocked out by who she called Daddy. He then wakes up to the actual worst family dinner ever, gets chased by Jack, fights with him in the garage, has a phone conversation with a mysterious person named Zoe, and then solves a bunch of puzzles to get the fuck out of that house. Then, after speaking with Zoe again, he finds out that her and her family are infected, and Zoe and Mia cannot leave the property until they're cured of whatever the fuck it is. Ethan goes searching for one part of the cure in the house of horrors that is Marguerite and her bugs, fights with her a couple of times, and then finds part of the serum. Then out of nowhere, the son Lucas kidnaps both Zoe and Mia, and Ethan has to go and rescue them in Lucas's little fun house, if you can call it that. Ethan makes his way through all the traps, through Lucas's little fun games, quote unquote, and then he goes to rescue Zoe and Mia. After rescuing Zoe, she whips up 2 things of serum, and then surprise, Jack attacks again! And then Ethan defeats him. Again. Only this time he had used one of the serums in the process. He then has to make the decision on who he needs to cure, because he only has 1 serum left. Does he choose Mia? Or does he choose Zoe? Well, he chooses Mia. There is an option though if you want to cure Zoe instead of Mia. However, that's a different ending. If you want me to explain that, let me know down in the comments below. Maybe I'll make a video on it. They then escape in a tiny little boat. But then the boat crashes, and they're over by a giant ship that looks like it's been wrecked for quite a while. Mia then wakes up on the shore, and some nasty mold shit takes Ethan away, and she tries to get him, and it takes him away where she can't get to him. So she goes into the ship to go save Ethan. She travels through the ship to rescue him and starts remembering what happened to her along the way, along with what exactly was on the ship and what happened to the Baker family. Mia was one of 2 agents for a company called The Connections that was assigned to watch over Evelyn, who was a bioweapon that was created to look like a 10-year-old girl, and she had the power to control other people and create little mold monsters that Ethan encountered throughout the game on the Baker residence. Mia manages to save Ethan, but then falls back under Evelyn's control. Even though she was cured by the serum? What? But then Ethan escapes to the Baker salt mines to finish off Evelyn once and for all. Ethan learns about creating a neurotoxin that will neutralize Evelyn, manages to make it, and heads back to the house to face off with that little brat. She's not super stoked on the serum. Ethan sticks her with it, and then she turns into... Grandma? Wait, what the fuck? More on that later. Anyways, Evelyn gets pretty pissed off. She melts, mutates, and then Ethan finally defeats her with the help of a random gun that fell out of the sky, and a random person that calls him on his watch and says to use it. After Evelyn crumbles into a billion pieces, we see the one and only Chris Redfield there to save the day. And Mia is safe over on the helicopter. Ethan and Mia then fly off into the sunset in a typical Resident Evil ending, with the helicopter flying off literally into the sunset. So you might have a ton of questions at this point, and I definitely did the first time that I played this game. There is a surprising amount of details though that are hidden throughout the game, mostly in the files that you find, but also there's others that are explained by the DLC. There's a lot of extra information that's in the Not a Hero DLC, End of Zoe, and in the Daughters DLC that's part of the Banned Footage Volume 2 pack. So, some questions you might have are, why wasn't the serum needed to defeat Marguerite? Why didn't the serum eliminate Evelyn when she was injected? How did Zoe fight Evelyn's influence for so long? Why didn't Ethan just turn around immediately and leave when he got to the swamp? Oh, yeah, that's right, the door was locked. Also, what was up with Evelyn in general? And then also, what was the mold? Now, why wasn't the serum needed to defeat Marguerite? Well, since Jack was given regenerative abilities, Marguerite wasn't. She was gifted the gift of bugs, which would explain why after you defeat her in her main boss battle, that she immediately calcified and disintegrated. Why didn't the neurotoxin eliminate Evelyn when she was injected with it? Well, in theory, when the sample was taken from her, her body was a lot different. Because throughout the game and throughout the 3 years that she was at the Baker residence, she aged incredibly rapidly. This is more than likely why the neurotoxin didn't have an effect on her. Or at least a permanent effect. How did Zoe fight Evelyn's influence for so long? Well, she was able to pretty much evade her family for the most part for 3 years. And she also was armed with the knowledge of what Evelyn was. At the end of the Daughters DLC, in the trailer, she runs into a knocked out Mia, and she also runs into a couple of interesting pieces of information. Most importantly is a warning about a young looking girl and not to trust her. Well, so what exactly is up with Evelyn anyway? Well, Evelyn is a bioweapon who was codenamed 𝗦𝗢𝗖𝗓, who was the first E-type bioweapon, was basically created to be able to control the population and be able to blend in with others by looking like a 10-year-old girl. Dun dun dun. Mia and the other agent that she was assigned to work with, Alan, were supposed to transport Evelyn to a safe laboratory. But during a hurricane that was affecting Louisiana at the time, the bioweapon became unstable. And everything went to shit. The wrecked ship ended up washing up in the backyard of the Baker residence. And then Jack ended up finding Evelyn and Mia during the storm. And then Evelyn took hold, and the family was tortured for the next 3 years. The connections didn't anticipate that Evelyn's greatest desire was to have a family, and she tried to find that in Mia, the Bakers, Ethan, and so many others. So, how did Evelyn turn into grandma? Well, with her biology, she was rapidly aging. So in the span of 3 years, she went from a 10-year-old girl to a super sweet looking grandma who ended up being a nasty monster who was just evil. Fun! Alright, so what the hell is this mold stuff anyway? Well, it's a fungus that was generated by Evelyn, and it kind of forms itself into creating what was called the molded, which are these nasty ass looking creatures that just don't go down very easily. They aren't really zombies or reanimated corpses. However, there are victims that are fed to the mold, which help give it energy to create the molded. This explains why so many people were kidnapped for experiments and why Lucas was experimenting on so many people. They were being fed to the mold to create the molded so that Evelyn could have her family. Resident Evil 7 is one of my all-time favorite games, and the more I learn about it, the more I come to love it. What do you love about this game? Let me know down in the comments. Pretty bonkers, right? Well, while you're processing all this information, you should go check out my speed run of this game. Hope that you're treating yourself well, and I'll see you next time.